So now we have our circle. Off of that, we're going to utilize these 2 points to find our 90-degree angle. Does everybody understand why the distance doesn't change? So a pencil, as I wear this down and I take this out and I sharpen it again or just use my knife, my distance now between these 2 points has changed. Okay, if I mess up, like let's say I push on this and this were a little loose and it changes, my distance between these 2 points is different now. Okay, so you can micro adjust this. If you look at this point, it's actually off center just a little bit. By turning it, I can actually change my length of my trammel points. So if I had to go back and reset this, I can kind of micro adjust it right here. Okay, and then make sure it's nice and tight. To start out, I like my points to be about the same height off of the floor. They just tend to run better. And it doesn't have to hit in any spot other than it needs to be past the center point. So we know that this we can change now and go out here. And what I'm going to do now is key off of this. And here.
You want to use the pen because the pencil is going to get wider and wider as the pencil gets used. So have a bunch of ballpoint pens with you for using other pencil.
So in theory, what I've just created is a 90-degree angle. Okay, so we'll snap this line. Good. So that's our 90. Does everybody see how that was kind of easier than doing the 3, 4, 5? And we can check it by measuring, the same distance out and running another circle and just seeing if this length right here, if we burn an inch, is the same distance as it is on all those. And then we know we have a 90. Okay, everybody understand how that works? So now we can use this same tool to divide this into quadrants to make 45. Okay, so again, now we're going to utilize this point and this point. So we're going to use the circle because that's where it meets the 90 line. I'm going to do it on this way. And again, I don't want to get confused here and work off that other point because it's actually the distance I'm working off of is off the radius. Yep, if one of these if one of these distances gets changed, so let's say I messed it up, I would just have to go back and change one of them. Does that make sense? I wouldn't have to go back and readjust these. Those marks right there and those marks there are a 45. So let's say I had like this side I couldn't use as long a piece, that's okay. This side maybe I could extend this way out and use that other compass piece. I can make my marks way out there as long as on this side I make sure it balances. So in other words, this mark and this mark So now we can snap these 45 lines. And now you'll start to see, let me help me right here. ahead. I'm gonna snap it twice. Let me wind it in. Now what do you guys start to see? Maybe a medallion coming together? Let's snap that one. Good?
Yep.
Okay. Now how do you think we break these down even more? Same thing. So I can go bigger or I can go smaller. Again, I'll start right off of here. I'll just do it on this quadrant right here. Now where do I go with my point? Here or here? Here, since I'm dividing these 2 points. And that side I don't need to do, but I'll show you how to do it smaller. The problem with doing this sometimes is that you get, when you go real small like this, is it's going to leave a real flat radius where they come together, and it's almost like using a laser where your deviation is going to be. So on this one, what I would probably do if I was trying to get this one, it's this close to the wall. You could do this just to double check it, but I would probably concentrate more on this point and the center point to snap the rest of that. But that again gives you a smaller plane, right? So your distance between those 2 points, the larger that is, the more accurate that number is going to be. But you should be able to do this if it'll reach halfway. And that should come through here and hit that 45. Somebody help me with that? You good? So now we have our 90, our 45, okay, 22 and a half, and now we can break that down again. So now you can start to see a medallion start coming together. So if I know if I have pieces, for instance, let's say I'm using 7-inch product, won't quite work, right? If I'm making my medallion out of 7-inch product. So I know it needs to be a little smaller. Could break it down in 30-degree angles too. Okay, using the trammel points again to find the 30, 60 degree, 30, 60, 90. It's 1, 2, and the square root of 3, which is like 1.6678, whatever, right? So how do you find that on a tape measure?
That's a good question.
Lenny would be able to do it, right? But I'm not that good. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, I'm going to utilize what we already have here in this. So when you start popping a bunch of different extra lines on here, it can get a little funky. So I'm going to do them off the center. So I'm going to create, there's a 1. I'm going to create a 2. Now, I'm going to set my 2 here. It did, didn't it? It's pretty good. And let's see the chalk box. Go ahead and grab that line. So what we have, and it's going to be a little confusing here, so I'm going to draw with a Sharpie that I don't have anymore. Did you have that Sharpie still? Kurt? Yeah, perfect. So we have, which one did we just do? This one?
This one.
All right. So here to here is 30 degrees. Okay, this was our 45 line. So this one is 45 degrees. So this, so what if we want to divide that down? So let's say we wanted 15-degree wedges, right, to make this a little more attractive for like size-wise. Remember how we talked about being able to divide that down? Like, okay, for this one I needed what, 4.5-inch material? Let's see what it works out if we break this down one more time. Good. So now both of these, 15, okay? Which if you're doing layout for that hexagon pattern, it's 60-degree corners, so you're gonna set your saw at 30 to cut your 60-degree angles. So let's say here, now our pieces only need to be 5.5. So we can divide that down, and we know if we're doing like 2 1/4, well, that's not going to be enough, right? But so we know approximately if we cut that down, it's like 5 3/4. So we need roughly 3-inch material. So if we had 3-inch stock, that's a perfect size. 15-degree angle. We know we're going to need, 2 pieces for each of those. But if we had 5-inch material, we know it's not quite enough. Yeah, because we'd need 6-inch to make that, and that would be perfect. Okay, so maybe we know, okay, let's shrink this down a little bit. Let's make our medallion a little smaller. So we can measure in here until we get to where we're only 5 inches. Like 5-inch material will work if we're ballpark right in that area, which means I shrink my medallion down to 17.5. So that makes a 35-inch medallion. Does that make sense? So I shrink my medallion in, but now I can use my 5-inch product. All the center of those is gonna have a little slop. Every single time you put that many pieces together, you're gonna have a little bit of sloppiness in there. So I would always plan on doing something that you precisely cut in the middle. Whether it be a star, whether it be just with less points that all come together at one spot.